guys, we are back with another one. I am so excited to be back, and as you can tell by the title today, we're actually going to talk about the books that I read in June. We are going to ignore the fact that it is the middle of July. I know, I'm running late as per usual, but I don't know about you guys, but for some reason, my summers, like most people's summers, I feel like are relaxing, their time to take it easy, their time to hang out and relax. For some reason, my summers get busier. My summers with my full-time job get busier. My summers with my two boys get busier. I actually have two boys that play on 4 different leagues, 3 of which are travel leagues. So sports starts taking up a lot of my time. Friends are coming over because it's summer break. We have friends and family taking vacations up here and staying at our house. So for some reason, my summers get busier than my actual regular months of the year. So I'm just finally getting a chance to sit down. I'm also filming on a brand new camera. I'm so excited to see if you could tell, both with the quality of the actual video picture, but also with the quality of the sound, because that was something I was really struggling with in my last videos. I was filming on our vlogging camera because we do a lot of travel vlogging over on my son's channel, which I'll link below. We do travel vlogging, and that was our DJI vlogging camera, which we love, but it's not really meant for really high quality audio. So at the time that I was editing, I was having to go back and like really sharpen up and crispen up the audio. So I'm excited to see whether this new camera with its attached microphone is going to be a lot better. So I'd love to hear below if you notice a difference. Go ahead and tell me down below. But let's jump right into it. Let's talk about the books that I read in June. Okay, so if you remember in our last video, a bunch of my favorite creators on BookTube, but also Bookstagram, chose 12 different books that they wanted to put on my June TBR. The first question of this video is, did I get to all 12? And the answer is absolutely not, unfortunately. I did not get to all 12, but I did read 7. And for how busy I was, that's, I average between like 6 and 8 books a month typically. So it was a relatively typical month, but I did not get to all 12, which is kind of a bummer, but that would have been a really ambitious, very difficult month for me. So I am still proud of myself that with everything we have going on, I did get to 7. So let's jump right into it and talk about them. So the first book that I read in June was Addicted to You. This book was chosen for me. I have my little list here. This book was chosen for me by none other than Juliana from Books by JB on YouTube and Instagram, and I ended up giving this book 4.5 stars. This book tells the story of Lily and Lo, who are both struggling with their own addictions. Lily is a sex addict and Lo is an alcoholic. They're best friends, and basically, without giving away too much, they each enable each other with their friendship. They allow each other to continue on in their addictions by covering for each other, which is pretty typical. They're each other's enablers. It's really interesting. They cover with their family and friends. They really enable each other's lifestyles with their addictions. So I absolutely loved this book. I can officially say that I think I'm officially going to be an addicted Calloway girl. I'm so excited to continue on with this series. For anyone that doesn't know about Krista and Becca Ritchie's Addicted Calloway series, there's kind of like 2 series that interconnect. There's the Addicted series, which is Addicted for You, and then there's the Calloway series, which follows Lily Calloway and her sisters. And I'm so excited to continue on the series. The dialogue was really great. It wasn't complicated. It was a really, really, really fun book. And I could see myself getting more and more attached to these characters as I carry on. So 4.5 stars. Thank you so much, Juliana. It was so good. I actually am buying all the reprints because they're reprinting these books. And I have the next 4 already. So I think I'm going to continue on, maybe possibly this month if I can get onto it. The next one I believe is Addicted for Now, I believe is the next one in the series. The series is kind of complicated to understand, so I hope I get to continue with it this month. So 4.5 stars. Thank you so much, Juliana. Okay, so after Addicted to You, I went in and jumped into the second book, which was a recommendation by none other than Miss Anna M. Reads on Instagram. Love her content. Please go watch the video before this if you could hear me like give the shining accolades that are the creators that I chose and who I asked for their opinions. They seriously are some of the creators on YouTube and Instagram that really have inspired me, and I sing their praises over there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to link it down below. Please go and watch that one because I want you guys to know how amazing these girls are. So Anna M. Reads went ahead and gave me a suggestion to read Throttled by Miss Lauren Asher. You guys, I loved this. This was a 4.25 star read for me. This was so good. So if you don't know, this follows the story of Noah Slade and Maya. Noah is an F1 driver, which I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a NASCAR girl. I'm not a race car girl. I'm not an F1 girl. So when I kind of jumped into this, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. Like, I just don't know if this is going to be my jam. I didn't know if I was going to relate to it. I didn't know if I was going to like the world. I didn't know if I was going to have trouble understanding it. And I definitely didn't. It's really easy to read. It's really great. I loved it. The love story is fantastic. Lauren Asher has an incredible way of writing that just loops you in right from the beginning and really makes you attached to these characters. However, with that being said, the reason why it was a 4.25 and not a 4.5 or higher was because I didn't feel as engaged and as interested in the actual world and subject matter. My interest was 100% character driven in this. I honestly didn't care about the racing. I really didn't care about the stats of the racing world. It just wasn't my thing. But with that being said, I am so excited to continue on with this because I really liked the writing and I loved Noah and Maya and I loved the surrounding characters, and I'm really excited to see what happens with them. I already in my mind can picture like a few ways that some of the other characters in this story can be looped in and have their own books. So I'm really excited. I do own the entire series. I also own the entire fine print or it's the Dreamland Billionaires series by Lauren Asher. I own it all, and after reading this, I'm so excited to continue on with her writing because I really loved it. Okay, so moving right along, after I put down Throttled, I picked up A Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This was a recommendation by A Bit Booked on Instagram, and I am so happy with the selections because between Krista and Becca Ritchie, Lauren Asher, and Abby Jimenez, these were the authors that I was most excited to get into because I had never read any of them, and I own basically their entire works. And I was so excited that they chose these. This was another 4.25 star read for me. After Throttled, I jumped right into Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. You guys, I should have known because my favorite creator suggested it, but they gave me such fantastic book recommendations, and furthermore, between Krista and Becca Ritchie, Krista and Becca Ritchie, Lauren Asher, and now Abby Jimenez, I honestly could not have asked for more. This is an author I've been wanting to read forever. I own pretty much like her entire works. They're sitting on my shelves and I've never read her. So when A Bit Booked on Instagram went ahead and suggested this to me, I was so excited. This was another 4.25 star read. I really loved this book. So this book follows Alexis Montgomery and Daniel Grant. Alexis is from a very prominent family of doctors, and she herself is also a doctor. She is driving one day from a funeral and her car breaks down, and she meets Daniel Grant, who helps pull her out of a ditch or help her with her car. I forget exactly what happens, but he's a small town guy. He doesn't make a ton of money. He's not from a prominent family. And their story continues from there, basically with her trying to decide whether she wants to continue living this very, chasing this like very professional, corporate, prestigious life in the city, or whether she wants to slow down a bit and go more small town. It was so good. The writing was super digestible. The characters were well developed. I liked their love story. The only reason why this wasn't a 4.5 or a 5 star was because sometimes I thought it was just slightly cheesy with the banter every once in a while. Also, I found the pacing to be off in certain spots. Like when there was some good love scenes or when there was some good dialogue, it was great. But then there were other chapters that felt kind of slow, like they just weren't quite progressing. And I found myself kind of being like, was that really necessary? This is a fairly long book. This was, 380 pages, something like that. but I really loved it. Am I going to continue on reading the companion series or the companion books in this series and Abby Jimenez as a whole? Absolutely. Loved it. Loved her. Thank you so much, A Bit Booked, for this recommendation. It was fantastic, and it was a 4.2 stars. 4.25 stars. So after Part of Your World, I picked up Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. Yet again, another author that I've been dying to get into, own all of her works, and actually am right now collecting the, she recently got picked up by Bloom Publishers, and they're redesigning all of her covers. So I just bought the, what's it called? I'm gonna have to look. Rock Bottom Girl. Something like Finally You're Mine or something like that. I just bought a couple of her new covers from Bloom Publishing. I've really wanted to read her as well, and this book did not disappoint. I gave this a 4.5 stars. So this book follows Naomi, and she has an evil twin sister, Tina, who lures her to the town of Knockemout, Virginia, steals her car and her wallet, and I believe her phone, and takes off. I believe Tina has a drug problem, and in the process, Naomi learns that that wasn't the other surprise Tina had in store for her. Tina ends up, I want to make sure I'm not giving anything away, so I'm checking that this is on the back of the book. Okay. So Tina ends up also leaving her 11-year-old daughter, and Naomi takes over caring for her while they figure out what's going on with Tina and where she went, because she doesn't want her to go into a foster home. This is her niece that she never knew existed, and she wants to take care of her. So she ends up staying in Knockemout to care for Waylay. I believe her name is Waylay. To care for Waylay, Tina's 11-year-old daughter, and wait for the police to conduct this investigation on what exactly Tina did with her car and her wallet and stuff. This book was so good. It, once again, just like Part of Your World, it's a chunker. I mean, this is a big book. This is over 530 pages, so it's a really big book, but the writing was great. The characters were great. When you meet the male love interest, whose name is Nash, I'm sorry, not Nash. Nash is his brother. When you meet the male love interest, who is, why am I always, Knox. When you meet Knox and his brother Nash, you kind of do just fall for them. The only reason why this wasn't a 5-star, I see so many people rating this a 5-star. I am very picky about my grumpy sunshines. Like, I'm very picky about my grumpies, because for me, sometimes you could go from just like kind of grumpy to like a straight up asshole, and I don't like that. And Knox sometimes like walked the line of too far. Like, there's being protective, and then there's being controlling. There's not being sure where your feelings are, and then just being like straight up confusing to the point of abusive. And sometimes Knox like teetered on the line for me, and because of that, it made it kind of hard for me to root for their relationship 100% of the time. But overall, I ended up liking him. I ended up liking the other characters. I did like Naomi. She was a little immature at times. Like, some of the stuff she said, I would kind of get a little cringed about. But besides for that, I did like her. I just couldn't bump it up to that 5 stars for those reasons, but I really loved this book. I don't even know if I said this, but this was a recommendation by Miss Naomi. Oh my God. Nash, Naomi, Knox. I don't even know. There was another one. They're all like mixed up in my mind, all these end names. This was a recommendation by the fabulous Miss Natalie, lawyer on Instagram. Thank you so much, Natalie. 4.5 stars, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. Can't wait to pick up the next one. I have Things That We Left Unsaid, I think it is. No, Things We Hide from the Light, and then Things We Left Unsaid is the third one that I already have pre-ordered. So, yeah. All right, after Lucy Score's book and Natalie's fabulous recommendation, I moved on to A Dawn of Onyx by Kate Golden. This was a recommendation by the amazing raven-haired reader. She is one of my favorite YouTubers, and she is the fantasy romantasy queen. For me, she is like the pinnacle of fantasy romantasy recommendations. I just like, if Rachel from Raven-Haired Reader reads it and likes it, I'm like, I'm probably going to read it. So when she recommended Dawn of Onyx, I was so excited to read this. This follows Arwen Valendale. It's like yet another fantasy book where like the names and all like the stories and stuff like that get very hard to follow. However, this book does something that for me automatically adds points when it comes to a fantasy novel, in that it adds this fabulous map at the beginning. This for me is almost necessary in most fantasy books, because when you do make the jump over to fantasy, you're talking about a ton of world building, a ton of language that isn't typically used in everyday. I mean, I don't often speak the way that they speak, at least in my life. And it is sometimes a little hard to follow. You're typically talking about epic high fantasy or things like that, where there's a lot of characters, hard to keep track of. So I love when they give the maps, and even furthermore, I love when fantasy books give like character lists and their pronunciations of their names and how they kind of relate to each other, which is really cool. But this follows Arwen Valendale. She is taken prisoner by this kingdom of Onyx, or the Onyx territory or something like that. She's taken prisoner by the Onyx King, who is trying to take over the entire world, which I believe, what's the entire world called? Oh, Evendel. I knew there was a name. Evendel, who's trying to take over the entire world of Evendel. And she has basically been raised that this Onyx King is evil, horrible, ruthless, brutal. Some of the stories that she's heard throughout her childhood about the awful things that he does are truly like, they're terrifying, and she just knows that he is somebody to avoid. She hopes she never meets him. Well, her brother, I believe, goes to fight the war against the Onyx King, and through a couple of series of events, Arwen ends up getting taken as a prisoner of war by the Onyx King to the Onyx Kingdom. However, Arwen is, she has a special power. She's a healer. So I think normally she would have either been thrown in a dungeon to die or tortured for information, or, you know, something horrible would have befell her. So because she has this ability to heal, she has value. And I think that ultimately, at least in the beginning of when she's taken prisoner, that's what gives her some value and kind of protects her in the Onyx Kingdom. And without giving away too much, the story basically goes from there, how she survives being a prisoner of the Onyx King in the Onyx Kingdom, and it is very good. This book is romantasy, so as you can imagine, there ends up developing a little love, a little love story between Arwen and one of the other characters in the book. And this book got a 3.75 for me. Not because I didn't enjoy it, because I actually really did. Romantasy is my favorite genre of books, so I really connected with this book. However, where it did get some points deducted for me was the characters, the character who Arwen ends up having a love interest in. I had a lot of trouble rooting for their relationship. I felt that they just didn't have good chemistry. Like, they didn't have like a good connection, and I just didn't find the love story believable. Like, I don't think if we applied this to the real world that these two characters would end up together. I don't think they're gonna last. I don't know. There is a second book coming out in this series, and I'm absolutely gonna read it because I did enjoy it. And it ends in a cliffhanger, and I want to know what happens. And maybe in the second book, some things will be revealed, some things will be explained, and I'll understand it more. But I don't know why I had so much trouble connecting with this love story. I just didn't find it believable. I didn't buy it. And I don't think at the end of the day, I'm 100% positive that these two characters belong together. So for that reason, I gave it a 3.75. But I do still suggest it because the writing's great. It's not a super complicated world building. The story's great. It does have some intrigue, being in the middle of a war. So I would say pick it up and read it because I'm super intrigued by what's going to happen in the second book. Hopefully that ties up some loose ends for me and makes this understandable. But with the cliffhanger, when I got to the end of this book, I kind of just, I don't know that I saw it. Something didn't connect for me. So this was 3.75. Thank you very much, Rachel. I really did enjoy it. So next, Miss Shanasi Schroeder, the fantastic Shanasi Schroeder, excuse me, suggested Carrie Soto is back. I ended up loving this book. I gave this book, what did I give it? A 4.5. This book was a 4.5 for me. I have to be honest with you. I think Taylor Jenkins Reid and like her writing is just going to connect for me. I just really, really love her writing style. I love her character development. I did read Daisy Jones and the Six, and that was a 5-star read for me. So now the only 2 books I've ever read by her, Daisy Jones and Carrie Soto, which both are kind of like interconnected worlds, they got a 5 and a 4.5 stars. So I'm starting to think that maybe TJR is just an auto-buy author for me, and I'm really going to like her. I have a couple more books of hers on my bookshelf, and now it kind of makes me even more excited to get into her. I love her writing. I love her description. I love her character development. I mean, her characters feel so real. Like Daisy from Daisy Jones and Billy from Daisy Jones, like I could see myself actually knowing these people in real life, and the same thing happened with Carrie Soto. I could see myself actually knowing her as a character in real life, or as a true person in real life, I should say. She's just a very well developed character. I have a personal connection to this book because, little known fact about me is I played tennis for all throughout high school and into college, and after that a little bit. It is my favorite sport. Who's calling me? It is my favorite sport. It is something that I'm really passionate about. So when I heard that this was going to be about a professional women's tennis player, I was like, absolutely, have to get it, love it. So this story is about Carrie Soto. She was a world champion tennis player and retired. And after I believe it was 5 years of retirement, this younger girl is coming up the ranks of tennis, and she finds herself in a situation where she's about to beat all of Carrie Soto's records, and that just did not sit well with Carrie. Carrie was, I guess, what you would colloquially call like a bitch. Like the media said that she was unlikable, she was cold, she was a bitch, she was very outspoken. But in my opinion, was she? I guess. But in my opinion, she was just a very, very confident and assertive. And I think she's kind of like your I don't take any crap kind of woman. Like, she doesn't have time for nonsense. And I can understand where that came across as cold, but at the end of the day, with her friends and her family, she was a good person. Like, she wasn't a cold person. But I guess to people who didn't know her well, her assertiveness and her confidence did come across as a little bit unapproachable. So, she decides to come out of retirement to keep this girl from breaking all of her records. And it really is just an exploration of self-development and self-discovery with Carrie as her redemption story as she comes out of retirement. It's an exploration of the harshness of the media, the harshness of words. It's an exploration of a father-daughter relationship. Her father is her coach, and it explores their relationship. It's an exploration of competitiveness, the natural human competitiveness. It's an exploration of love and how you balance love with professionalism. Honestly, it covers so much in this book, and to me, was this, I can't even put like one genre on this book, because was it romance? A little bit. Was it historical fiction? A little bit. Was it self-empowerment? A little bit. I mean, there's so much that goes into this book. It was just so well done. It was so well written. I ate this book up. I think I read this in like 2 days. I really highly suggest you pick it up. And this was a 4.5 star read for me. So, in fairness, the next book that I read was not on my June TBR. It was not suggested to me by any of my influencers. However, I got this book in the mail because I had pre-ordered it, and it was one of those books that I had so much anticipation for. I was so excited for. Just like the rest of my TBR went out the window, and I was like, I am picking this book up and reading it right now. And that is Divine Rivals by Miss Rebecca Ross. This book has been blowing up all over the internet. And I'm like destroying it. There we go. And this book has been blowing up all over the internet, and I just totally bought into the hype. I was like, I need to read this book. And basically what this is about is I'm the worst with character names. Like, once I'm done with a book, like the characters' names just kind of fly out of my head. Like, I could tell you what happens in the story, but their names just not so much. I believe it was Iris, and I'm trying to think of his name. Roman? kids. Yeah, Iris and Roman. So this book is about Iris and Roman. They both work at their local newspaper in their town of Oath. They're journalists. They're also in direct competition. So it's like workplace enemies, workplace rivals. And there's this element of these divine gods that have waged war on the mortals, and the gods are warring against each other, using the mortals to fight for them as they destroy their lands. And Iris decides that she is going to be a war correspondent and write journalism about this war because her brother, who is beloved and really the only person she has left in the world at certain points in the story, is fighting in this war, and she wants to know what's going on. I think it starts out as her trying to find him because she hadn't heard from him from the front lines, and she was going to go and write about this war, but also see if she could get an update on her brother Forrest, and what ensues from there. This book was so interesting because it had an element of fantasy with the gods warring and the mortals and things like that. But it also felt very much historical fiction. Like, if you were to take out the element of the gods and just like put in Civil War or put in, some battle that we've had in history, like, I would buy it. Like, I could see it. So it had like a historical fiction, fantasy, romantasy vibe, and I really, really, really liked it. I have to tell you right now, I might have to pick up, this is technically Rebecca Ross's like YA book, but she has an adult book called A River Enchanted, and after reading this, if this is her YA effort, like, I have to pick up A River Enchanted because this was fantastic. It was so good. There was so many parts of this book that as I was reading this writing, it's beautiful. It's almost poetic in its prose. And as I was reading this, I just had to like stop and close the book and just be like, wow, how beautifully written was that? And then I'd reopen the book and keep reading. It was just beautifully, beautifully written and beautifully, beautifully done. I really love this book. I did end up giving this a 4 stars. There were a couple of deductions for me. For me, there were certain sections of this book where it was a little what they would call like insta-lovey. But I'm trying to like justify that out because in the time of war, you don't always have, there was such a feeling of uncertainty in this like fast-paced nature of war in this book. But I think the characters knew that they didn't necessarily have months, and that anything could change by the day. We always get a cameo in the videos.
What day do we leave for Disney?
October 26th.
That's the day we're on the plane?
We leave at like 5 a.m. on October 26th for Disney.
Nice.
Vlog to follow. Travel vlog to follow. Sorry. That was Mr. MC. So it was a little insta-lovey at times, but because of the war-torn nature of the time period in the story, I understood that things needed to move a little bit fast-paced. It was very, very good. The only reason why this got a little bit of a deduction as well is the pacing in this one was a little bit off for me as well. And when I say pacing, I mean how the story flows through time. So sometimes you were getting this like amazing couple of chapters of dialogue and I would just eat it up and fly through it. And sometimes you'd get these amazing chapters of action and pertinent information and things that really gripped you as the reader. And then other times I found my brain kind of wandering because I felt like the pacing got a little too slow. So when you're doing that like slow, fast, slow, fast, sometimes my brain has trouble like connecting that and it takes me out of the story a little bit. Overall, the writing is stunningly beautiful. The characters are great. The story is so interesting. The historical fiction element mixed in with fantasy is super unique. I absolutely loved it. The second one, which I believe is Ruthless Vows, is coming out in October, I believe. I already have it pre-ordered. I have A River Enchanted. I have a couple of different editions like on my list of things. I'm trying to decide which one I want, but I really, really love this, and this was 4 stars. And actually, I wanted to show you. I got this stunning edition. This is the Fairy Lou edition of Divine Rivals. It is so beautiful. I don't know if you can see this, but how stunning are those edges? This book is beautiful. It has the gold embossed stars. It is just absolutely beautiful. Let me see if I could take out. It has these beautiful end pages, and it is, oh, sorry, there you go. Beautiful end pages, and it is, of course, signed by Miss Rebecca Ross herself. So it's signed. I absolutely love this book. It's stunningly beautiful. I love this edition. I've been getting really into collector's editions of books recently, and this was like one of my favorites. I just find it so gorgeous. So lives up there on my one of my collector shelves. So thank you guys so much for watching. I know it was late. I know it's a bit chaotic. However, I'm getting back into it. I got my new camera. I'm slowing down. Hopefully the audio quality on this is really improved, and that will really help me stay motivated. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye.